Good evening, folks. Welcome to Defeat of Jesse James Days 2025. It's Friday evening for the second Bank Raid reenactment, the 7 p.m. Bank Raid reenactment. That's going to get underway here in about 5 minutes. So we are going to start the broadcast so you can all start tuning in. There are, one Bank Raid's already happened. The first is at 6 p.m. So including this Bank Raid, there's going to be 4 tomorrow that you can see at 11, 1, 3, and 5, and then also on Sunday at 11 and 12:30. 12:30 on Sunday we'll have limited bleacher seating, so beware of that. If you do want bleacher seats, you need a button for that, so you can see all the great people over here, and then there's standing room way over there too, and more bleacher seats. We're right outside the First National Bank, of course, where this started. The bank raid getting underway here in a few minutes. We'll bring that to you live if you can't watch it or anything. And then we will be here. Of course, Tim Freeland right there, our MC for today's event. We will be getting started here shortly. The reenactors, the townsfolk walking around. You see some of them walking past the camera here as we get ready for this reenactment. It's a pretty nice night here on Bridge Square. It's a little chilly, but if you got a sweater, it's pretty comfortable out. The rodeo, of course, on the rodeo grounds getting underway at 8 o'clock today. There's 2 more rodeos tomorrow. Again, the bank raid starting at 7 o'clock here, which is in just 3 minutes, that we'll bring to you live here on our Facebook page. Walk past, everyone. Of course, we're getting the last few things set up as you see some of the volunteers walking by and all these townspeople in their costumes and such. Again, folks, the first bank raid reenactment getting underway here not the first, this is the second. The second tonight is the 7 o'clock bank raid reenactment getting underway here in just a few moments, so stay tuned for that. The townspeople going around at the start of the reenactment here. Oh, no worries, don't worry. People getting their last-minute earplugs before the event. Of course, it got quite loud at one point, so it's nice to have the earplugs for people. The Merchants Bank sign says it's 59 degrees here at the start of the reenactment. So, a cool night, but still a pretty nice night overall. If you're just joining us, thanks for joining us. It looks like we're about to get started here at 7 o'clock, so thanks for joining us for the bank raid this evening.
How about we get this rolling? And happy Halloween to everybody. Happy Halloween. Almost feels like it. Everybody's bundling up. It's the 2025 version of the Defeated Jesse James Day's 77th annual. I don't know if you're aware of this, but next year is the 250th anniversary of the country. So we're going to have the 250th. Isn't that crazy, of the United States? Also, I don't know if the Defeat Gang planned this or not, but they robbed the bank, they tried to rob the bank on the centennial of the country, so the 100th, which would make it the 150th anniversary of the botched raid. And so that's just going to be huge. It's also the 50th anniversary of the Northfield Historical Society. So I'm not trying to tell you to go home right now and don't watch this, but I'm saying next year come back for more. So, that said, I'm Tim Freeland, and I want to thank you for coming down on behalf of the city of Northfield, on behalf of the Northfield History Center, the reenactors, and the Defeat of Jesse James Day's committee. There's a bunch of us that as soon as this is over, we start to plan next year. It's a year-round event. So we literally put our whole heart into this, waiting for this day, for this weekend. So we're excited, and let's get it rolling. What we're going to do, I remember watching the reenactment. Back then, the guy's name was Don or Trey. He used to tell the narration. He used to give the background. Of course, back then, I used to tell my dad that it was boring. And I always would ask, when did the guys start to shoot? And but now in my wisdom, you see I've got this right here. Now in my wisdom, I've learned that if you pay attention to this, the chaos of the shoot 'em up makes a little more sense. And there's actually significant amount of history that you will learn that is really quite fascinating in regards to American history, and how just these sleepy Northfielders stood up to this gang of notorious outlaws and just changed things. So if you would, think about this as we take a time travel back 149 years, right beneath your feet. That dirt right there, it was here. Just imagine, if you would, go back in time with me just a bit here. In 1876, the city of Northfield was a small, thriving community. The town was a rail center on the productive Cannon River, with Ames Hills on both sides. Even then, Northfield was a college town, and still is home to Carleton and St. Old colleges. Imagine, if you will, Northfield just some 20 years old. The downtown buildings were mostly wood framed with a few made of brick and stone, and of course, the streets were unpaved. The homes of the residents were built close to the downtown area. These people on the street were ordinary citizens. They were immigrants, merchants, and farmers. They were peaceful, yet determined people, used to dealing with hardships, but not people to be taken advantage of. Now contrast that in your minds, if you will, with the James Younger gang. Who were these men from Missouri? And why this bank here in Northfield, Minnesota? Well, here's some background. The first robbery committed by the James Younger gang was the Clay County Savings Bank at Liberty, Missouri in 1866. In the decade following that first robbery, at least 20 more were committed by the James Younger gang. Most of these leaving innocent people dead or wounded. On July 7th, 1876, exactly 2 months to the day before the Northfield robbery, the gang held up a Missouri Pacific train at a place called Rocky Cut near Otterville, Missouri, where they made off with $18,300, an amount that would be worth well over $500,000 today. Now, shortly after this Rocky Cut robbery, a new gang member by the name of Hans Carey was captured and turned state's evidence. See, after Hans' confession was published in the newspapers, the gang had intended to head for Texas, changed their mind, and decided to head north, likely by rail for Minnesota. Now, once here, they spent a week in St. Paul, followed by a week in Minneapolis, staying at the finest hotels the cities had to offer. From Minneapolis, they traveled by rail to surrounding communities looking for horses, scouting out the banks in southern Minnesota, and getting themselves acquainted with the lay of the land. Posing as cattle buyers or land speculators, their inquiries about the area raised little suspicion. We are gathered here today not to pay or honor a band of outlaws, but rather to pay tribute to the heroism of the peace-loving citizens of this community that sprang into action to protect their neighbors, as well as the economy of the city. We are here today especially to honor a well-respected 39-year-old man by the name of Joseph Lee Haywood, a man who lost his life during the robbery. He was filling in as the acting cashier of the only bank in town. He was also the treasurer of Carleton College, the Congregational Church, and the Northfield Public Schools. There's a memorial plaque in the Congregational Church that bears his name with the inscription, Fidelitas, faithfulness. Another plaque is on the Carleton College campus. It says, in grateful memory of Joseph Lee Haywood, inscribed by your friends as a tribute to heroic fidelity, and concludes in Latin, Esco fidelis, usque ad mortem. Be faithful unto death. Travel back with me to Thursday, September 7th, 1876. The place is downtown Northfield. All seems normal in this quiet Midwest college town, with local citizens and area farmers going about their business. You're looking at the original Scriber building, which still houses the old First National Bank. It's now a museum reflecting the actual minute that raid happened. About 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Bob Younger, Frank James, and Charlie Pitts, they rode across the iron bridge in the Mill Square from the west side of town where they had just eaten lunch. These men all wore these long white linen dusters, no doubt to hide the firepower on their gun belts. These coats weren't that uncommon for the time, but with so many uniform-looking men on horseback, did start to draw some attention. The 3 men tied their horses near the bank, then they walked to the corner where they could observe their comrades taking position. One group near the iron bridge, and the other coming up from the south on Division Street. This first group would be the inside men who would go into the bank. The second group that included Cole Younger and Clell Miller rode up Division Street from the south, while the first group of robbers would walk from the corner, go into the bank, and enter. Meanwhile, Cole dismounts in the middle of the street, while Clell dismounts, walks to the door, and closes it, standing on guard from the outside. Meanwhile, Curious Hardware Store owner J.S. Allen, he attempts to follow the men into the bank, but he is instantly stopped by Clell Miller. Allen jerks away from Miller and runs towards his store on Mill Square. On his way, he shouts a warning, "Get your guns, boys, they're robbing the bank." Across the street, townsperson Henry Wheeler sees this encounter, and he shouts, "Robbery! Robbery!" and he runs towards the hotel on the corner. The alarm was sounded. At this point, Clell Miller and Cole sprang into their saddles, and they began riding up and down the street, chasing citizens away from the bank, firing their guns into the air. The last group of 3 robbers that were guarding the escape route at the Iron Bridge come out of the scene as soon as they heard these first shots fired. These men were Jim Younger, Bill Chadwell, and Jesse James. Meanwhile, inside the bank, Bob, Frank, and Charlie find three bank employees at work. Seated at their desks were acting cashier Joseph Lee Hayward, assistant bookkeeper Frank Wilcox, and bank teller Alonzo Bunker. See, the vault door was open with the safe on the inside. The safe door was shut but not locked. Earlier, Hayward had dialed the combination, but he hadn't turned the handle yet. The safe contained approximately $15,000. Bank teller Alonzo Bunker steps up to the counter to wait on the three men. The outlaws drew their weapons and began shouting and ordering them onto their knees and to hold up their hands. They kept demanding to know who the cashier was, since the cashier kept a combination, but no one replied. The bank employees refused to open a safe. Hayward told the robbers the safe had a time lock and couldn't be opened. See, even after Joseph had been beaten unconscious, Bunker and Wilcox refused to cooperate. In an attempt to persuade Joseph, Charlie Pitts fires a shot near his head. And at that very moment, Charlie Pitts tries to run towards the bank door at the end. Running after him, Charlie Pitts fires 2 shots. The second shot hitting him in the shoulder. At this point, the battle in the street was at its height. 5 of the robbers were riding up and down the street, shooting and ordering everyone away. The people on the street took cover. Stores and offices were quickly closed. Henry Wheeler had run into the Danbury Hotel on the corner across from the Great Bank. He grabbed an old Army rifle and ran up to the 3rd-story window up here. J.S. Allen, who first sounded the alarm, alerted hardware store owner A.R. Manning of the robbery as he passed his store. When Manning got to the store, he began handing out guns and ammunition to anybody willing to join the fight. The first citizen to arrive with a gun was Elias Stacy right here. Stacy shoots Clell Miller in the face with a load of 5 birdshot, knocked him on his horse for the moment. A.R. Manning grabbed his rifle and headed towards the bank. When he got to the corner of the Scriber building, he sees 2 robbers standing behind a horse. So he aims his gun and kills Bobby Younger's horse. Then, as Clell Miller got back on his horse, Henry Wheeler from the hotel window puts a bullet through Clell's subclavian artery, killing him within seconds. As the firefight grew, Cole Younger rides to the bank several times, pleading with his comrades to come out so they can retreat. A.R. Manning, shooting from the base of the stairwell, takes careful aim and shot Bill Chadwell at the heart at the opposite end of the block, killing him instantly. Finally, several townspeople came on the street near the end of the block to the south. Cole Younger shoots Swedish immigrant Nicholas Gustafson in the head, and he dies from these injuries 4 days later. A.R. Manning, shooting here at the base of the stairs, he kills Bob Younger's horse. He injures Cole in the head, and then he shoots Bill Chadwell. Henry Wheeler up in the hotel window missed Jim Younger with his first shot, kills Carl Miller with his second shot, and then he severely wounds Bob Younger at the elbow on his right side with his third shot. Because of his injury, Bob has to switch his gun to his left hand to shoot and mounts the same horse as his wounded brother Cole before exiting to the south. The battle was over. From its beginning to close, it lasted but 7 minutes. The funds in the bank were intact, but 6 surviving robbers and 5 horses escaped town, with at least 2 of them badly wounded. Bunker had been shot through the shoulder. Gustafson had received a lethal shot to the head. Lying in the street were the bodies of Chadwell and Clell Miller, and in the bank, the body of Joseph Hayward. And now we present to you the Northfield Bank Raid by us modern townspeople and members of the James Younger Gang Reenactors.
Sorry about that interruption, folks. Sorry about the sound being gone, folks. We've figured out the issue. It's back now. The Raiders are going into the bank at this moment.
Robbery! Get off the street! Get out of here! Get off the street! Come on!
Here comes some reinforcement. Guardian Nicholas Gustafson shot the street. Down to the bank. Reinforcement was called in from around the state. A posse of 1,000 would form, and then would search for the gang until finally 4 were captured or killed near Medelia, Minnesota. On September 21st, the younger brothers go to prison for life. Charlie Pitts is killed in that shootout, and Jesse and Frank James successfully retreat to Missouri. At this point, the townspeople come out. They don't know what hit them. They see who's lying on the street. We want to make sure everybody's up and okay at this point. And they will be coming back this way. You see Nicholas Gustafson is down at the end, the Swedish immigrant. And they go inside the bank to see just what happened. To their horror, to see that Joseph Lee Haywood has been assassinated point blank, lying on the floor of the bank. And of course, we can't reenact this, but Bob's horse was deceased. Good job. Nice, good job. Next week, we're be doing 4 more tomorrow, 11, 1, 3, and 5 if you want to come back. Tell your friends, and then of course 11 o'clock on Sunday. If you want to come at the 12:30, there's limited seating on Sunday.
Tim, of course, telling you the bank raid times. You can also check out the museum, the First National Bank, where this happened. So we'll check that out in the days as well.
All right. Thank you guys. One more round. And thank you everybody for coming to the View to Jesse James Days 2025. Enjoy the rest of the celebration.
As the sign shows there, guided tours, $10. Go check out the museum. They're going to be open all throughout the rest of the celebration. Tim said it. There'll be a few more reenactments tomorrow, 11, 1, 3, and 5, and then Sunday, 11 and 12:30. Thanks for joining us, folks. We'll check in some other events later this evening.